Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
And this is a very special edition of the podcast because, Hannah, you were last week also at Monterey Car Week, but you're still there, and you just got to sit down in a room with Ford CEO Jim Farley, who I guess has just finished judging the Concours.
Yeah. This is actually kind of the climax of the whole week. We are in Casa Palmero at the Pebble Beach golf links, and it's basically the end of the day. Jim and I both got up for Dawn Patrol, which is a 5:45 a.m. commitment to watch the cars roll onto the lawn. And then Jim, of course, has a car that's entered into the Concours, a Lincoln, but also he's the judge. So he just finished judging and came in here to talk to us, which was a really great thing. And of course, we love to talk to him because he's so fascinating to talk to.
And passionate.
Yes. Yes.
He bleeds oil. It's unbelievable how much this guy loves cars.
It's so inspiring. And I don't want to gush because everybody's different. But I will say not every automaker truly loves and believes in the cars the way that Jim does. It's on another level. And it is really fun to be around because he is a true believer, for sure. It's fun.
Let's get straight into the interview now, and I'll meet you back here in 30 minutes.
I was here at 4 because I was showing my old Lincoln. So I was here at 4 trying to get the car ready. We had a fire during the tour, but we had to repair the car this morning. And I'm also 11 or 12 year into judging here. I'm a technical judge for Packards.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Sweet.
And I really love the early American cars. So I couldn't do both. So my son drove the car on the lawn. I couldn't do Dawn Patrol this year.
Okay.
And then I had to make it to the judges' boring breakfast.
Wait, I want to hear about both of those cars. First, I've heard the Packard 12-cylinder motor was a model that Enzo Ferrari loved. Is that true? What's the story with Packards?
If you ask Phil Hill or anyone who knows about cars, they would tell you that Packard in the 20s and 30s, had even before that, but really became, the Rolls Royce in the United States. It wasn't the fanciest car. You could buy a Pierce or a Locomobile or others that were fancier, but for the high-end mainstream, dual cowl, Phaeton, Packard 12-cylinder, a twin 6 is about as nice of a car, and they're completely silent. You turn it on, they're even quieter than my K Lincoln. They were very tasteful cars. They were understated. Their advertising slogan was slightly out of touch today, but ask the man who owns one kind of said it all. And they were really the gold standard in our country. The Packard plant in downtown Detroit was the place to work if you were a factory worker like my grandfather. He worked at Ford, but he would have loved to work at Packard. It's no surprise because Packard took so much pride in their 12-cylinder engine. They had no need to come out with a 16 like Cadillac. They thought that was too heavy, and it's no surprise that they became the licensee for the Merlin engine in World War II and made all the engines for the P-51s. Because they were so good at manufacturing and quality. It was a great company. They didn't survive much after that, but when they were on their game, they were the best in the world.
And you said you're a technical judge today. So
yes.
What does that entail? What are you looking for? What are you evaluating?
No, it's a good question. We have basically a small point range for elegance, and that's where there's a lot of negotiation that goes into that because everyone's definition is different. But the most important thing is we're not going to give you points off for, let's say, you have a scraped piece of paint here or there. It's not what people think. It's like that hose clamp is wrong. That sticker is actually not put on the right way. We're not looking to get people, points off. We're looking to, is that car executed in the intent of the manufacturer's intention, especially the engineering stuff, like does stuff work as it's supposed to work? The vacuum, wipers, they can work really well. They don't work really well sometimes. And a lot of the owners don't really care as long as they work. But for judges, we're looking for the manufacturer's intent. when they made the vehicle. But a lot of people get it wrong. And there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money on these fancy restorations. They actually don't know about the cars. They don't know what it should do and not do. And Packard had a lot of good reasons to do what they did when they braided a fuel line or when they didn't. They had good engineering reasons for it. So we're looking for technical compliance, the manufacturer's intent, not to ding people for like a sticker being there or not, but is it there to warn the customer, do not touch this? And we're looking for, especially the custom body vehicles, are they elegant or are they cumbersome? Could be a really expensive car that actually isn't very elegant. There are a lot of those. So we look for both elegance. The genesis of this was, of course, the Pebble Beach races. And then, not so modern idea, the women would pick the most elegant car on Sunday. So the guys would race, really wealthy people would race on Saturday, and eventually they moved out to Laguna Seca because it was so dangerous to race in the forest. And this concourse was an elegance.
Yes.
And you picked the most elegant car.
That's actually great history that has never been strung together to me.
Yes.
That was the genesis of
Yes,
this
it was.
whole week,
Yes,
really.
it was. It was always a week.
4 years ago or
Yes.
so.
And
Yeah.
Phil Hill was the first person to win the road race. And then he happened to win his aunt's car he restored it, won the concourse the same weekend, next day.
Wow.
And he wound up being the first American world champion. So this weekend is great. I worked in a car restoration shop. In fact, Hill and Vaughn, Phil's place. I put myself through graduate school. I'm an interior guy, so I sew frogs, buffalo hide, all sorts of crazy stuff.
Wow.
I put myself through graduate school, and I was a mechanic. And I came up here after we'd work on the cars for 3 or 4 years. We weren't allowed in the show. We didn't have enough money to be in the show, but we would drive the cars on the lawn. Before there was Dawn Patrol and all the mechanics who worked on the cars, we would look at each other's work. And we'd say, hey, you did a great job of that delage. What is that? And I got my PhD in the car business as a mechanic here.
Wow.
And my wife.
What was that? How many years?
That was 1985.
So you've been coming for a lot.
Yes. And for more than 20 years, I camped at the Monterey campground with my wife.
That is
Awesome.
that's very authentic.
I'm a complete dirtbag.
Yeah.
I do happen to be in Sea Hill Ford too.
Yeah.
That's like my other part of my life. But the real Jim Farley is an interior guy who.
Frog.
Yeah.
Frog.
Yeah. It takes a lot of frogs to do it.
That's a lot of hides.
Wow.
That's
So,
why.
Jim, tell us about your Lincoln.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
I always wanted to. I'm a kind of reverse commuter. I love Cobras and I love Porsches. And, my first car I restored was that with my own money was a 356 Porsche in the late 70s. And
It's a little known fact.
I rebuilt the car in my apartment in Manhattan Beach. And I did an outlaw car before there was such a thing. It was all aluminum deck lid. And, I did a lot to the car myself. And then I moved up to Cobras and GT40s. I really only like race cars or cars that on the street were intended to be race cars, so to speak. And then maybe 20 years ago, I started to get more intrigued by older cars. First, the pre-1900 cars, steam and electric. And, in 1910, the industry was a third, a third, a third. A third steam, a third electric, and a third combustion.
And is it true the electrics were marketed toward women?
Oh, yes.
Because they were clean, quiet,
Yes.
easier to operate.
Easy to operate.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do any starting. It was and actually was better technology all around. Just the batteries weren't advanced. I began to look at race cars from pre-war. I bought a 4.5-liter Bentley. It was just normally aspirated Bentley, but I really love those cars. They won Le Mans first 4 years, and they were incredible cars. And we won Le Mans 4 times at Ford too. And they made their brand, and kind of the GT40 made our brand in a way. And so I was looking for an early car, but I'm a stickler. I like original cars. So my Bronco, my 72 Bronco, I bought off a Montana farmer, and I looked for 20 years to get a car. And I've been after this car for way before I came to Ford. It's a 12-cylinder LeBaron vinyl topped coupe, which is very unusual for these big cars to be a small coupe. And I love coupe design. I have a Lancia Aurelia that I won best in class here, and I like coupe design. I don't like open cars other than the Bentley because I think it's more of a beautiful design and the designer's intent. So I was looking for this car for a long time. It took me more than 20 years to finally, there's only 5 that were ever built. And it's the first year that Pierce had the copyright for the integrating their headlamp into the fender. And
this was novel at the time.
Yes, it was huge. And it expired in 36. So the Lincolns in 37, I think, are more beautiful because they have the integrated headlamp into the fender. And it was also, it's a forward to his father, Henry. He was trying to convince his father, Dad, I know this Model T made the company, but we got to get serious about design. There's this thing going on called choice. Bigger engines are 4-cylinder engines, and cars are more than just utility. And so he was trying to convince his father. He eventually convinced Henry Leland to get rid of Lincoln. It was part of General Motors. And but for 7 or 8 years, he didn't have any resources to create his own Lincoln. So then this Lincoln K, the 12-cylinder Lincolns, are the first Edsel Ford Lincolns. They were all built as chassis. They were sent to bodybuilders. Like a yacht, you would pick the body, and there's very few coupes. That's why I love this car. And it's great to drive. It's a great kind of technology statement as an American. I'm really proud of that car, and that's why I bought it.
I'm always looking at these old cars too, Jim, and I wonder why. I guess it's just not profitable to make something like that these days, like something with a rumble seat or suicide doors or like an open wheel like the Bentley. Like nobody makes anything like that stuff anymore for less than, $1 million.
Because they're not safe.
Yeah, I guess.
Everyone always asks me, hey, Jim, why don't you just make like an old 65 Mustang? It's such an honest design. But, we couldn't make a car like that. It would never pass crash tests and never. It's a shame, but that's kind of how it is. We kind of can't unlearn things like fuel efficiency, aerodynamics, safety, how a car crashes itself, an offset crash. We can't unlearn those things. So it's hard, and people didn't know about those things back then. But I think there are a lot, like humans are humans. We don't really change. So when I get in my Lincoln and I turn that key and it starts and everyone goes, whoa, I can't even hear it start. I think like, well, that's what an electric car is. You can poo-poo it, but the NVH, when we came out with the LS400 when I was at Lexus, if there was an EV available, we would have, that first Lexus definitely would have been an EV. It's quick, it's fast, it's good torque at low RPM or 0 RPM, and it's quiet. And that's a human condition. People wanted that in 1937, and they still want it. And now you can get it in a $25,000 or $30,000 Ford with our new affordable platform. I'm not trying to sell Fords. I'm just saying technology changes, but the humans still want the same thing. They want fun to drive. They want, for me, as a personal car, I want a car that's engaging. I want to feel everything. I want the steering feel to tell me everything about what's going on. I'm interested in mastery. A lot of people aren't interested in mastery. They just want to get from point A to point B, and they want quiet, and they want good acceleration. Not because it feels fun like me. They want to get around a car really safely. So for them, I think there's not much difference, actually.
Well, or both.
There's no difference between a 12-cylinder Lincoln and a Model S Plaid to me. There's no difference.
That's a shocking statement, though, because it's a 12-cylinder Lincoln that, I'm sure, and I know you're getting a ton of emotional reactions when you drive that. People get so excited because it's tangible and it's experiential. And you're saying that's the same as a Plaid?
Yeah, for sure.
Say more about that. I'm really curious. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement.
In 1937, most people were driving Model Ts. You get in that K Lincoln, it was a spaceship. It went faster than anyone could ever imagine going in a car. It was quiet. It was like as quiet as this room right now. And people were marveled at something. Other than the Silver Ghost, it was nothing that quiet, or a Packard Twin 6. It was effortless performance. It had all this torque. So when you pulled away from a stop sign, the Model T would be making all this noise and
A lot of drama.
yeah, a lot of drama.
Yeah.
And then you got
Yeah.
pedals and everything. It's like,
Yeah.
it had so much torque. You can do it in second gear. You could drive up to 50 miles an hour in second gear and not even know you made a mistake. It was the greatest technology of the day. My car had a radio with an antenna hidden underneath the running boards. I mean, cars didn't even have antennas, let alone hiding them. Yeah, it was a spaceship, just like the first time I drove a Plaid, I was like, holy cow. Not a car for me personally, but there are a lot of people who were marveled at the Plaid when it came out. And a 37 Lincoln was no different. The only difference maybe is that it looks pretty cool.
Can I ask, when you're out on the field walking around, what are you thinking about the status and state of the American automotive industry now compared to, we're talking about Packards, we're talking about Lincolns. What's going on in your head when you compare the two?
I don't really think much, hey, what will Pebble Beach be like in, 2075 or something? I think more about not much new has ever been invented. It's about 1915 in our industry.
What's old is new again?
No, it's just everyone thinks things are new. They're actually not new. When I look around, there's just not a lot of new thinking because people really in the beginning of our industry, they took a lot more risk. Look at the genesis of the 911, where it came from its humble beginnings until, the 993 and 98. It was just an incredible evolution, but it was the same concept of a vehicle. And it was so honest and it was so unusual. No one other than Porsche would ever think to put that car and design it that way. No one. And all our cars, because of aero and safety, they all look the same. They all are so generic. And I think, why do we have to be stuck in this rut of sameness? Even though many people want a car to go from point A to point B, and they don't particularly like what it looks like. As a creator of cars, our job is to actually change their mind and to have them care about something, and that we shouldn't feel obligated to copy our competitors. Our designers are world-class copiers. Someone writes a line on a fast roof on the AMG CLS 25 years ago, and then now Hyundai Sonatas have fast roofs. And everyone just go, oh, this is a roof, then that's a roof, then that's a roof, then that's a roof. And like, that's not what I expect. I don't like that. To the cafeteria of our industry and picking some Jell-O and some hot dogs and a couple slices of pizza. No, I think our job at Ford is to think about our customers and to surprise them, like Pro Power on Board, where you can power your house for 6 days. Who would have ever thought? It's an F-150, best-selling vehicle in our industry, but it can power your house for 6 days. You don't need a Honda generator. You don't need a Generac generator and all the ads I see on TV. But we always had the chance to do that. We could have done that with a hybrid 20 years ago, but we didn't. And that's on us. I walk around the show and I say to myself, there are not a lot of new ideas. So why aren't we more innovative? Why can't we do more of the things I see here? Just mix it differently and put more pressure on ourselves to surprise the customer. That's what I think about.
Well, we spoke with Mate Rimac, and he said, in his view, Elon Musk has changed the auto industry more than anyone alive. And I bring it up because Tim Higgins wrote a story in the Wall Street Journal about Doug Field making this new truck for you, and kind of implied that he's going to change the way you do production. And obviously Henry Ford was the last person that really changed production, right? Maybe until Elon. I don't know that much about what goes on in the factory as much as you do, but do you think something different could be done, not just in the execution of the car for the consumer, but in the way you build the car so that it can actually be a great vehicle for $30,000?
Yes. No, I really believe our Skunk Works team, my badge didn't work there for 3 years. And that team from Formula One and Tesla, they had no prejudice. And our industry is filled with prejudice about how something should be done. And when you create a software-defined vehicle, you have freedoms that we've never had. For 120 years, well, let's say for 50 years, we've been putting the computer in when it's convenient for the final assembly, which is probably, we make a car in 6 hours. We make them every 50 seconds, but it takes us 6 hours to make an F-150. That computer goes in with about 15 minutes left. So what? But think about if you can put that computer in after paint, after the first 45 minutes, and it could self-diagnose itself whether every one of those connections are correct or not, because it knows how it should be built, and it can detect whether the connections are right. You don't need any vision systems. You don't need any training for your operators. You don't need any of that, because the line stops if the connection's not made for anything. So we just wasted 4.5 hours of quality risk. And one of the biggest issues you have in quality today is connectors being seated but not fully seated. That is a really big innovation in our industry. Will anyone care? The customers will care. Will the business journalists care? They don't even know how cars are made. But if you knew how a car was made, you would say, my God, like putting a computer in the first 45 minutes is a game changer for our industry in quality. Another one would be, the math we do about weight. The batteries are so expensive, it changes the math in a car. You take an ICE engine engineer and we give them an F-150 or a Mach-E electric car, say, go design the wiring loom. So they go do what they've been doing for 120 years or maybe 30 years now. And our wiring loom is 1.6 kilometers longer than the Model 3s. It's also 70 pounds heavier, and that's $200 a battery. That's bad. Like we have a prejudice that in an ICE world, there's no penalty. Well, the weight penalty math changes when you go to a battery, because the weight is the battery is so expensive that it's better to spend $70 extra on a wiring harness to save 70 pounds.
Yes.
So you save 200 on the battery. Well, no ICE engineers think that way.
Is that how you get to profitability on some of these
a
lot cheaper EVs that you're talking about, that you're planning?
Yes.
That's the path.
When we did the Mach-E, there was no one like the Apollo 13. There was no electrical engineers measuring the watt drainage from our EV system. Turns out we were 30%. We could have gotten 30% more efficient on our gearboxes and inverters and motors than BYD. And that allows our battery to be 30% smaller. And that means that even though they may have a big advantage on, labor costs in China, we can actually make a cheaper battery than BYD because we can out-innovate them in the efficiency side of an EV powertrain. That's what I'm saying. We have these prejudices about a wiring harness and what should a wiring harness weigh and how should it be engineered, that we need to get rid of. And I agree that we're in kind of a 1910 to 1920s era again. But EVs are only for certain customers and duty cycles. For a lot of other customers, the things that we love, like manual transmissions and, the people that want to master the joy of controlling a mechanical thing called a car. We don't want to get rid of those things.
Does this mean we can talk about the GTD now?
For sure. I mean, I have a million other questions about trucks, but I love that video that Chris Harris did with Max Verstappen. They started out with the RS200. You say you like race cars personally, Jim, and that is a race car that was for the street, right?
This weekend, you won your class.
I did.
Yeah.
When the CEO of Ford wins a class, though, they all think I was cheating on my motor. So it's kind of like, and I can't really cut anyone off because I don't want to be that guy, because then they'll be talking about that. So racing.
By the way, how much time do you get to spend on the track practicing or in the simulator? Do you spend a lot of time getting ready?
Sleeping and racing are my only two private things I do. I don't have any other private time. So it's when I put that visor down, it's my only time to myself. And I can think about stuff. I do as much as I can, 10 times a year, about as much as I can. I like racing modern cars, the GT4, Mustang. I raced at Le Mans with their challenge car.
Saw you in Le
Yeah,
Mans.
so
Yeah.
you guys were there. That was fun. I tend to be a contrarian. I feel like the supercar market is completely overserved, that there's so many choices that really don't matter, that no one will care, that people are just buying these cars to invest as if it's a stock or something. As an old school car person, who's an enthusiast, I'm more excited about what we're working on off-road than I am on-road. And I'm really proud of the GTD because it's a Mustang. We didn't try to turn it into something else. And I always admired the GT3 RS and GT2 RS, but they're almost too extreme for the road if you really wanted to use them.
Yeah.
You need to go to a track really. And I thought that, wow, what if we could do a Mustang that was still kind of based on the $30,000 manual Mustang that we sell to people like me when I was a kid, and do something that, be a top 10 car at the Nürburgring, but do it as an American company. What I mean by that is not change the concept of Mustang. It still is a V8 supercharged. Yes, we have a transaxle. Yes, we have push rod rear suspension and all that stuff, but it's unapologetically a Mustang. It's not trying to be anything else. It's just trying to be the best version of a Mustang. I think we're starting to get there. We're starting to find our own voice as a brand with our direction for Mustang.
Can I ask about the pricing of the GTD?
Sure.
Obviously, it's an expensive vehicle.
Sure.
Are you getting pushback from customers who are saying, this is more than I want to spend on a Mustang?
No.
Okay.
No, I think what we think about more than even the price is how do we make just the right level so that if someone invests in this, they feel like they're not going to lose value. I think we've learned enough about doing well. So first of all, I worked at Toyota for many years. Toyota could not sell, a Corolla at $340,000. Sure. Ford's a weird brand. Like we have no problem selling 5,000 Raptor Rs at $120,000. We have no problem selling a GTD at that price. We also have no problem selling a $30,000 affordable, electric vehicle.
It's a wide range.
Yeah, it's a weird brand that way. Everyone's like, yeah, because we have motorsports history. That gives us permission to do things that other brands don't, who don't have that commitment to enthusiast products for 50 years, 60 years. And so to me, no, we don't get pushback. I think what we get pushback is why you're only building 300 a year.
Yes.
And we're only building 300 a year because we want there always to be a next one. And they're not going to be a next one if you build 1,000 a year because there's not big enough market. And we want the people who invest, and we also don't want posers. So we have an application process. If you're a person who wants a GTD and you're going to keep it in your car collection, we are not going to sell you one.
Now, you've done this before.
Yes.
And it must have been successful.
Yes, because we kind of, we interview people and we're like, are you going to bring it to local car shows? Now, are you going to flip it after 2 years? I don't want flippers. That's not, I don't want investors, stock investors buying our cars. So, and we limit the number. We kind of know enough after 120 years, let's not screw the people that bought these expensive cars. Not to make it an investment, but just because it gives us the right to do another one. If we do this one right and everyone goes, you know what, I didn't lose money on that and I love driving the car and, then maybe I'll buy a second one and we can keep doing it. And I think that adds value. But what I'm more interested, there is no Porsche of off-road. And I'm shocked that people don't think about that. And I'm very interested in that. The on-road performance hierarchy is very simple to see. And the very top is overserved, in my opinion. But no one's ever done this off-road supercar.
Like
Lamborghini made big to differ.
Like a Mustang Raptor or a Bronco R or.
Oh, he's shaking his head. For people listening,
you take the Lamborghini.
He's shaking his head.
And let's see how long it would last on the Baja 500 course. Let's see how much.
Sounds like a challenge.
Within the first turn. No, I'm talking about like a Dakar type of concept.
Like a 911 Dakar.
No.
Okay.
No. Like a supercar. 1,000 horsepower, partially electric, totally digitally enabled. You bring your phone, you get the max Verstappen settings, or you have everything is adjustable. Suspension travel, the damping, the ride height, and it's fully capable. of doing a full-on race. It's not a pickup truck. I think that is the right way for Ford to innovate the supercar business. People really love the Raptor because it's so compliant, the suspension. And they do like how big it looks and it's intimidating. But what they're really shocked is when they drive on a long distance travel, they are shocked at how comfortable it is. It's like the most comfortable Lincoln they've ever driven. Because to go fast off-road, you have to have really soft suspension. A trophy truck is one of the most comfortable race cars you'll ever be in. But no one's ever built a supercar for gravel, high-speed sand, dirt, not rock crawling. I'm not talking about that kind of thing.
Not King of the Hammers.
No.
Okay.
But some parts of the King of the Hammers, yes.
Okay.
And I think that would be a great direction for our company. We can always do another fancy supercar, but I think I'm challenging my team to think a little differently.
Like a Group B kind of thing?
Group B, but maybe for 4 people or 2, I don't know yet. This is my idea. I'm talking to the team about it. Yeah, I am the CEO and I tend to know about the changing market, but I bet you in total revenue for enthusiast products, Ford outsells Porsche right now. If you look at our Raptors and our Broncos and our Tremors, I bet you our revenue is very close. And maybe our margin is too. But no one really respected the off-road. And the off-road racing world and WRC is so narrow and so kind of underserved from a media standpoint. People don't really understand the tech that goes into these vehicles. And yet everyone wants one. And yet the Europeans have the Porsche has a long tradition from the 959 on, but none of the other companies really do in performance off-road. No one's ever built a vehicle dedicated. And that's why I want to win the car.
Would it only be for 300 examples, Jim? Or is that what you're saying? Like the next 300 example car that Ford builds could be an off-road supercar?
I'm thinking about it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm thinking really deeply about it. And usually that turns into something. That's all I could say. To be honest, a lot of my friends are in that ecosystem of the supercars, and I'm nauseated by the sameness of it all.
Yep.
And the super small differentiation between this car and that car. And I think it's high time that an American company be a little irreverent and do something that go left when others go right. Not to just go left because there's a market. These Raptor people are telling us something. They are not stupid. They are really smart people. They spent $120,000 on an 800 horsepower pickup truck. And they're saying to us, I've never raced off-road, but I love driving this vehicle. And I don't care if it's dirt or sand or tarmac. I love it equally. You can't say that about an on-road supercar today. I'm just saying that for me, GTD is fantastic because it's who we are. And if you take that idea even further, there's a reason why we race at Pikes Peak.
Yes. Love it. I did want to ask about the Supervan 4.2 since you mentioned Pikes Peak, but I'll let it go. And
Roman Dumas was here. He's like my personal hero. And I introduced him to my closest friend, Wayne Rainey, last night. And we were talking about bikes the whole time. And I love Pikes Peak. It's a unique American race. The Europeans have always come here and enjoyed the race as much as Americans. But, it's very important spiritually for Ford because it combines our on-road and off-road. And we tried to do it with electric, but do it our own way with a pickup and a van, unlike Volkswagen's attempt, which was kind of a global attempt. We did it as an American company. But I think there's more there. And if there's one thing, if you ask me, Jim, you're a car person running this company, what is the most exciting racing that you're looking forward to? I would say I want to win Dakar way more than Formula One.
Wow.
Dakar is the most exciting thing happening. And, right now, Americans don't care much about it, but they should. You have no orientation. You have no idea what's over that next dune as a driver. You have to have the skill of orienteering. You have to know where you go. It's a 2-week race. It's exhausting. If you break something, you got to fix it yourself. It's an amazing, there's no race like it. And you ask any driver who's done Dakar, and all the great ones want to, they will all say the same thing. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I want Ford to win that race. And I want, not only that, I want us to build a vehicle so that all people could experience what it's like to have the joy of driving no matter what is in front of you. And right now, that's not the case.
I love it, dude. I
You
love
know,
it.
that reminds me of the glory days of Peking to Paris, some of these old rallies from, 70 years ago.
Yes.
That spirit of adventure.
Yes.
Yes.
And who knows what's around the next corner and what are you going to find? Yeah, that to me is part of being an American company. That's why people love the Mustang, because it's freedom. It's a road trip, unscheduled. You're going to meet someone you never knew. Well, that off-road thing is similar. And again, it's an underserved market. No one's ever given it the respect it deserves, I believe. Just the narrow, like ice racing or WRC or Baja, but no one's really democratized it, the performance part of it. I think that's what's exciting to me at Ford. It brings our pro business and our enthusiast brand, but it's something we haven't done. I think that's why everyone loved the Ole Bronco, because it was something that people didn't expect with Ford, a big wing on a Bronco. Well, there's a modern version of that too, but it won't look like an Ole Bronco.
Love it. I can't wait. We're excited for the future, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just unbelievable passion, right? I mean,
I know. He is someone who you can just really talk to. I admit, sometimes I think, I wish, if he says something funny, I'll feel like it's Chris Farley, because they're cousins.
Yes. And they have the same gestures.
They do. They're very similar. So I'm sitting on the couch, and of course I'm getting excited because he's talking about off-roading and all this, and going after Porsche and all these great things. And then I'm like, this is Chris Farley's cousin, which is also fun.
I would honestly have loved to see them together. And I've listened to Jim talk about his relationship with Chris and the amount of time they spent together. And I love to think about that, because Jim is pretty serious. He's pretty laser focused on automotive, right? And he wants to run the business and be
competitive.
He's very competitive. That's right. He's incredibly.
I think that's a better word. Serious kind of implies maybe he doesn't have a sense of humor, or he doesn't have fun. My feeling about Jim Farley is he wants to have all the fun. And you know what's really fun? Winning. Yes. That's what's really fun.
For sure. But I love to hear stories about him hanging out with Chris, who must have been in a different way also competitive, right? Because he wanted to make you laugh. That was his number one goal, right? And I love to hear the Farley family stories. And I listen to Jim's podcast. It's really great. And it kind of opens the door into those personal moments. And that's really the best part about it, because you want to know what people are like, right? So the personal things are more interesting than just the profits and losses and, lap times and, horsepower figures. So very, very, very cool. I'm so glad we got to spend that time with him.
Me too. I mean, he's a real human being, which is so great. He's not somebody who just talks from bullet points. He hasn't been overly media trained. You get the sense when you talk with him, he is a present individual who is having a conversation with you. And that is a nice thing.
All right. Well, listen, I hope you guys have a fantastic drive back.
Yeah. Thank you.
No tickets.
No tickets. I'm very happy to report I stopped counting at 15 police cars on the way from Los Angeles to Carmel, California, which is a 4-hour drive. I stopped counting at 15. No tickets, knock on wood. I think we're going to drive back tomorrow. But I do want to say, for everybody who came up and said something about listening to us on the podcast, thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot to hear from you guys. And just thanks for saying hi. And it's really nice to talk to some of you, all 12 of our listeners.
the dozens of people listening. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott. And this is Bloomberg.